Welcome back to aZign. In this tutorial, you learn how to group your experimental units by weight to create balanced allocation using aZign. So let's log into aZign account. Let's head into aZign tab, and under data entry mode, let's select grouping by weight. In this method, you'll enter weight value and the number of units that fall into each weight category. I have a table here with some weight examples and the amount of experimental units per weight category. And I'm just going to input these different numbers inside aZign dashboard. I am using the Tab key to jump from one column to another. If I made a mistake and add a data that is not within our sample, I can easily come back and delete it by clicking this trash bin next to the columns. Now I have all my data points inside aZign. I just need to set up the allocation settings, where I need to enter the number of pens or groups that my experimental design will have and the number of experimental units each pen will contain. For the purpose of this example, I will use 30 pens and I want 6 experimental units per pen. I could save my run with a custom name. This is very handy when downloading the file, the results as in file option, and I can name it however I want it. In this case, I will name it testings number 6 and I will hit calculate. If I don't add a custom name, aZign will download those results file with today's date. But it's very useful when I am testing different allocation scenarios to have a different way to differentiate my results. So let's do calculation and let's look at the aZign results. There are 2 ways to access aZign results. One is on-screen results, which are very each of these boxes represent each pen, and if I click on them, I can see a summary of the weights and the counts of experimental units that were assigned into that pen. I can quickly move from one pen to another just to make the allocation without even downloading any file. The next option is by coming here to these download file options, and we can see there are 4 different files that aZign generate. The first one and the last one contains the same information but with different formats. The 2 in the middle are just a histogram, like a picture of my sample population before allocation, and the histogram of my sample population post-allocations. So let's look at and download the processed Excel file, and this, as you can see here, it has the name that we added into our aZign custom name. So let's look at this information, how aZign gives us the results. We have different columns containing different information. The first one are all the pens that were allocated, the different body weights of the experimental units, and how many experimental units were allocated on each pen, on each weight category and on each pen. We have a summary statistic. Since I am allocating just 6 weights, this is really the summary statistic really looks very close together, but when our number of experimental units is higher, this will kind of look very apart. So we have from the summary statistic, mean, standard deviation, coefficient of variation, minimum and maximum data. Our next option here is just to have an overlook of only the summary statistic per pen. so we can make comparison and see if there is any statistic, there is any difference between one allocation, one pen versus another. As you can see here, aZign really generate an allocation where the mean of the initial body weight is very similar, very low standard deviation and very low coefficient of variation. The very last row just contains an overall the summary of all the number of experimental units that were allocated, the minimal and maximal, and the mean and the average of all the statistic parameters of my entire allocation process. And that's it. Now you can come back here and test different allocation settings without even changing or adding again writing back all the data set. We can even save this with a different name just to have just to know which one is which. And here we can see, instead of our first allocation program was 30 pence, and now my second allocation I asked aZign to allocate 25 pence, which are were generated correctly. So that's it. Now you can you just completed a full allocation using the grouping by weight method.